do you, so Bezos is going around with a chainsaw. Do you drop Prime? Like maybe. Like, so on the one hand, it's like, how egregious is the thing? But that it's like balanced against how valuable is the tool. How
start it up. Let's get it rolling. Big ideas, money folding. Hustle smart, dream so wild. Turn that grind into a joyride.
Episode 38. We're getting up there in the never-ending season.
Season 8, the never-ending season.
Yeah. We just decided we weren't doing seasons anymore, and season 8 was going to be it forever.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
Still living in it.
Actually, I think it's kind of a flex. I kind of wish we had kept seasons 1 to 7 and just like, so we'd be at like episode like 200 and something right now, probably, because we had 12 episodes in every, maybe not 200, but like pretty close to 200.
Okay.
So we're at like 38 in season 8.
Yeah.
And we had 7 seasons of 12. So like we're up there. It would be a big number. So
it would indeed.
Whatever.
Go on.
All right. So episode 38. So have you heard of this guy, Scott Galloway?
Prof G.
Prof G. Yeah. In the house.
Yeah.
Friend of the pod.
And you know, my wife just got back from a trip from Ireland, and then she went to a town, and we had been calling it Galloway because it's spelled the same.
Yeah.
But apparently it's Galloway.
Galloway?
Yeah.
Oh, weird.
Which actually feels like some sort of weird surgery.
Well, anyway, so Scott Galloway. Actually, love his podcast. Listen to it quite frequently.
Yeah.
He's a good dude. NYU prof, entrepreneur.
Oh, yeah. Like,
kind of just.
If you don't know Prof G, check out Prof G. He's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, keep going.
So anyways, he's calling for a mass unsubscribe movement called Resist and Unsubscribe. Okay. Kind of the theory behind this is that you should go out and cancel your Netflix, your Amazon Prime, your Chat GPT, all that sort of stuff to drive political change. Okay. Because the theory is that the politicians are highly influenced by these tech companies and what they're doing. So if you don't like what's going on politically, you should go out and like take a look at your credit card statement, figure out, hey, do I actually need, 8 different streaming services and, 5 different
This reminds me
AI
of
models.
It reminds me of when didn't Disney get into trouble with this about a year ago?
Jimmy Kimmel, right?
Yeah, the Jimmy Kimmel thing.
Yeah.
What was it exactly though? They pulled him from.
Yeah, he said something about Trump, and then
that wasn't a year ago. That was like 6 months ago. But
that wasn't that long ago.
They pulled him off the air for like 2 days, and then the response was so significant.
Yeah.
What was interesting though too is that it was a very people unsubscribed from Disney and everything like that. Like Disney Plus, like materially, like it was like millions of people. But the other thing too was, and I think the other important part of this, not that we want to go too deep on politics, is that there was a reaction definitely from Democrats, but also from the far right Republicans who are like very pro free speech. You can say whatever you want sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which I think was fascinating, that it was like a bipartisan effort, basically rebuke of that, right?
Yeah, it really interesting. So the reason I brought this up is because I saw that Scott was doing this, and I absolutely, I swear it was the day before. I just I find myself every once in a while, normally I just pay my credit card bills. I don't really look at them that carefully, but I feel like, well, I don't know, whatever. But I'm not going through them line by line.
Yeah, no, I mean, you kind of just get into a rhythm, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I feel like about every year and a half, I actually look at what I'm spending money on. And I did this exact thing where I was like, why do I need all these streaming services? Like Disney Plus, as an example, I swear the only reason I have Disney Plus is for Star Wars.
Yeah, okay. I actually like Marvel too. And every once in a while they got a good show, but generally speaking, definitely probably the most underused.
For me, it's only Star Wars, and they haven't put out another Star Wars series.
I heard they're doing another Andor.
Yeah, I think so.
Like an Andor tweener between them, like the end of the season 2 and Rogue One.
I think the other thing too is the last one. I can't remember what it was called, but it was these kids,
a skeleton crew.
Yeah.
Like that's, and it's made for kids though.
I know, but where is?
How do you think they got Jude Law to do that?
Yeah, I have no idea.
They must have just backed a dump truck full of money up to his head.
How does that guy keep getting work? Anyway, actually, he's a terrific actor.
He's a great actor. Yeah.
But
you're thinking of Kevin Costner as a Family Guy reference. Anyway, sorry.
But as a aside on this, I really want a dark adult Star Wars, not adult sexy adult, but dark serious Star Wars series.
It's Andor.
Yeah.
That is Andor was amazing. Second season of Andor was crazy good.
All right. Well, whatever. But anyways, I'm not renewing my Disney Plus subscription until they come out with some Star Wars. So anyways, I just happened to be doing this and I saw this. So I was kind of thinking about this from the perspective of a startup. Okay. And like what happens if, so like I got a few questions. So first of all, do these things work? Okay. So I've got a little bit of data that I want to kind of set the stage for you. I want to get your hot take on it. Okay. So history shows us that most of these like consumer boycotts kind of fall away after about 6 months. Okay. So why do they fizzle out? Okay. And so I got a little bit of data on that. So, diffuse targets. So there's multiple companies, there's convenience addiction. Like for instance, how easy would it be for you to quit your Amazon Prime subscription?
No, not very. But we order a ton of
because where else are you going to go? Right.
Yeah.
It's really tough to replace that one.
Sure.
So lack of alternatives, the network effects of, like when you're on a network, it's really tough. The value of that network, especially when a lot of people are using it, it's valuable. So it's hard to leave kind of like a network effect. The financial impact has to be significant enough for the companies to
like a lot of people have to do
like
it.
If Chris just quits his Disney Plus account, nobody cares.
Yeah.
But if tens of thousands of people do it,
or
then
millions,
or millions, it starts to have an impact.
Yeah.
So why do you think, what is your hot take? Why do you think these sort of fizzle out?
Because people actually want these services. So I think it's meant to be like a statement in the short term.
Yeah.
So you get rid of your Disney Plus. I mean, there's a couple things at hand. So one is that the value, and you kind of alluded to it, but the value that Disney Plus provides for you is limited.
Yeah.
Like you actually don't get that much value.
I can make that.
But like, let's just imagine instead of it being Disney, like let's go back to your Amazon example. Let's imagine it was Bezos was acting like Elon Musk, like during the Doge stuff. So so Bezos is going around with a chainsaw. Do you drop Prime? Like maybe. Like so on the one hand, it's like how egregious is the thing? But that it's like balanced against how valuable is the tool, how much, how important to your life.
How egregious is the outrage, and how valuable is the service?
And so I think what you see is users have a proportional reaction. So if Disney comes out, pulls Jimmy Kimmel, so then people start dropping it en masse because they're like, well, I don't agree with this, and this is screwed up. And by the way, Disney doesn't have that much value anyway. Right. It doesn't have that much value to me anyway. So I'm going to drop this for now.
Yeah.
So then other people start doing it. There's kind of like a momentum.
Yeah.
And then Disney comes out and says, okay, sorry, we screwed up. And then they, work on bringing those people back, and they get back to their status quo after 3 to 6 months. And that's fine. They took a hit for it, but like they realized what happened. They understood something about the market. Like it's not good, but it's like they can deal.
They had a bit of a blind spot on that, I think, because there was a bit of a backlash on that. And it is interesting. But like, keep in mind both sides of the political spectrum.
But keep in mind how far away, like Disney owns a lot of stuff. So it's not like the people involved with Disney Plus and like the SVP there or president of whatever of Disney Plus was somehow affecting Jimmy Kimmel. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
It's just such a big organization that it was it wasn't down to like local networks or something like that.
Yeah. It was...
So like these like a totally different department is making a totally different decision on something else that's clearly politically motivated when and that can then somehow like affect the rest of your business. Like they didn't know they were doing this either.
Right.
Like I would put this in the bucket of they made a mistake. Not understanding the scope of the impact of like another department making a decision. Right. So like, anyway, so in terms of the startup context, like, are you concerned that the small companies have to be worried about this sort of thing?
I don't know.
I don't think so. Like
maybe most startups don't have the scale to be.
I can see this happening with AI though.
Yeah.
I think if like Sam Altman came out and did something stupid, or like if we actually learn about his thoughts to take over the world or something like that, like I think it probably, like, I don't think XAI is like the most popular AI tool by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
And I think the reason for that is people are distrust Elon Musk.
Yeah.
And so I think like, it's not like, I could see this happening with AI tools where people gravitate towards Anthropic on a consumer level. Anthropic's apparently very good in B2B already, which makes sense. But like I could see consumers eventually making a choice if something really scary happened. like an AI tool, got out of the lab, so to speak, you could see people gravitating towards those tools that are safer and that kind of thing.
What about smaller startups? What about like us when we were in a fairly small public safety niche for universities and colleges? What if we did something that was perceived poorly in that niche?
Yeah. So I think this is actually really, really tricky. And I have a good example for us. So in our market, we were dealing with a lot, and I know there are founders today that deal with this, especially in B2B, where they're selling to certain customers. Those customers might have, interestingly, wildly different political views than you. Yeah. So a good example for me was we had a particular client in a state in the United States. And do you remember when they were doing those trucker protests in Ottawa here? Yeah. And it was like, and everybody in Canada, like 99% of people in Canada were like, this is crap. These guys are insane. And they like self-declared.
Nobody loves that we have to wear masks and stuff like that because of the pandemic, but we're going to put up with it.
But people had like the one guy had like self-declared himself like Prime Minister of Canada. It was totally batshit crazy. Okay. Yeah. And so anyway, I remember talking to one of my customers though, and I really liked this guy. And it just sort of came up and he was just like, I'm just really proud what these truckers are doing in Ottawa or whatever. And so there's two parts to you, right? There's business you and personal you. And personal you is like, wow, I don't know if I could disagree more on a personal political level with what this person just said.
Yeah.
But your business side is kind of like, I can't tell him he's a piece of shit. So
shut up, Dave.
Yeah. So I think this is kind of interesting, right? Like, as a business person, on the one hand, you want to stand for something.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you also don't want to offend your customers or potential customers. So how do you navigate this line? And I think the answer is you do it extremely carefully. Yeah. You try to support causes that everybody in your niche can get behind. Yeah. So for instance, public safety, so campus police and stuff like that. So we were supportive of their conferences. We were supportive of the talks they would put on. We would be, helpful for their ideas that were generally very, very positive. And I think people... I actually think Prof G would say this too, just coming back to him, where he would say stuff like, well, defund the police is like a stupid idea. And to be honest, it is a stupid idea. Right. Like that's way too strong of a reaction the other way.
Yeah.
The spirit of it is rein in a police aggression. Everybody can get behind that. Yeah. Nobody's like, I really want to get the shit kicked out of me or get shot by the cops because they're trigger happy. Yeah, we don't want that either.
Right.
But you know what I mean? Like this is the thing.
It's a fine line. Yeah.
It's a really fine line where you have to marry all this together.
Yeah. You can't go too far either way. Right.
Right.
You can't be too.
I think maybe this is just a trademark Canadian reaction. You know what I mean? Like we're just right in the middle. Like
Canadian compromise.
Well, we're just, remember like Obama was like, you're just so damn reasonable. I'm like, yeah, we are. We are really reasonable. Like, does that make any sense to you? You know what I mean?
By the way, greatest company name ever. I was at my condo building. Somebody was moving out and the name of the moving company was Reasonable Movers. And I'm like, that's a perfect name.
Yeah, you know what? No oversell.
No oversell.
Well, unless they're pricks.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess.
They're just totally
don't believe the marketing.
They're so unreasonable. You put it in the truck. What? Okay, sorry.
Anyways, yeah. All right. So I want to pivot this a little bit, different direction. So there's kind of an interesting parallel recently. Obviously, there's some trade wars going on in the world. There happens to be one.
I don't get your inflection there, but yes.
Yeah.
Cool.
Just
okay, trade wars. Yeah.
So there's a bit of a boycott happening right now in our home province here, where American alcohol has been removed from the shelves of the.
Isn't it back? Did it come back?
No.
No. Oh, okay.
It is not
cool.
back.
Cool.
Right. But it is.
See, it gives you an idea how much I'm drinking these days.
Yeah.
Is the booze back?
In the province of Ontario, the province where Toronto is located.
This is exclusively for the American listeners.
Well, I just got to set the table. Yeah.
Have you been to Ontario, Graham?
So the government runs it's called the LCBO, the Liquor Control Board of Ontario.
Have you been to the LCBO, Graham? The LICBO.
The LICBO. Yeah. Everybody calls it the LICBO. But yeah, actually the flagship LICBO store is right across the street from my condo here in Toronto. So I've got pretty
good
access.
News for you.
Yeah, I know. It's
feeding the addiction.
Good and bad.
Yeah.
But anyways, the government here, because they control the LCBO, it's actually the biggest buyer of alcohol in the world or something like that, because it's for the entire province.
Yep.
And they decided, because of all the tariff stuff going on, that they would remove U.S. alcohol from the shelves
as like a retaliatory
move. So this is like a government boycott. Okay. So the difference is here, immediate impact.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's more than 100% tariff. That's zero.
Very measurable on very
like
specific brands. Okay.
Yeah.
It's targeted. It's got clear demands. Okay. We want the tariffs off our automobiles and, steel, aluminum, all that sort of stuff gone. The government can kind of sustain the pressure longer, more than individuals. Like, I turn off my Prime account and, a few months in, I'm like, oh, geez, I really need a good deal on some random dish rags for my kitchen or something like that.
Need a new T-shirt from
and I don't want to pay
Basics,
that shipping, fee. So, governments can kind of sustain the pressure a little bit long. There is the risk of kind of like escalation, retaliation. So because it's a government doing it, it's like,
it's tit for tat. Somebody loses. Everybody loses in tariffs.
Yeah.
It's a prisoner's dilemma, but we all are immediately shooting each other in the head.
Now, one thing that was strategic about it was that there were alternatives. If you don't want
like
bourbon,
reasonable
you can
market
drink
alternatives.
Some other alcohol, you can drink Alberta whiskey or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
very good.
So there was kind of like the way they did it was kind of strategic, in that there were alternatives, there were substitutes available, and actually that probably helped the Canadian producers of alcohol because they're getting bigger orders. Their POs are a lot bigger. So, so what are your thoughts on that? On an alcohol boycott done by a government, is that more? Do you feel like that's a better move, or is that just easier for the other side to retaliate against?
Well, like, I'm a pretty strong believer in a free market economy. And I think that, look, it's all really context specific. Like, we didn't bring this fight on in Canada. We didn't one day say, oh, we're going to start tariffing American goods. We're going to crap all over the USMC or USMCA or whatever you call it. CUSMA. So, I think as a retaliation, it's purely a political maneuver. If I'm like a free market capitalist, which I am, I don't think it's good for anyone. Yeah. I think everyone sort of loses here. Yeah. I mean, there's always winners and losers and economic forces like this. And maybe we should have our other brother on. But I think that where the loser here is the consumer.
Yeah,
for sure. You have less choice.
You like Jack Daniels. You
got the theory. Here's the other thing is, you could also see a world where, and I don't even know if this is true, but where the Canadian sellers put their prices up.
Yeah,
because they know they have like basically a monopoly now, depending on their category.
Yep.
So you're kind of like, okay.
So maybe it was a good move for the industries in Ontario that were being tariffed, but it's like a bad move generally for everybody in Ontario.
Consumers lose the tariffs.
Yeah,
100%. Everybody loses.
So what do you do if you're like a bourbon distiller in Kentucky and this happens to you?
Yeah, you got to find alternative markets. Like, you don't really have any choice. And then the other thing is, you're probably calling your congressman saying, what the hell is this all about?
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's the point. That's why.
But like, the power for these decisions prior to the Supreme Court decision, a couple of weeks ago, like, the power for this to make this decision was so concentrated in the executive branch.
It couldn't happen this fast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even like, they've passed bills saying remove these tariffs on Canada. But the other thing too is, I think like, longer term, this is just going to create a culture of distrust between Canadian economic markets and the United States.
Yeah, I don't understand how this is ever good in the long term.
It's not.
I love
I think it's so funny. So now that I have limited experience with, Chinese manufacturing and everything like that, it is hilarious to me to think that this will have any friggin' impact on manufacturing in the United States. Yeah. This will not do anything. No. All this is doing is costing it will not onshore many jobs at all. It'll probably get some, but the net economic impact has got to be overwhelmingly negative.
Yeah, like if you're going to build a plant, that's going to take you years to build that plant.
And you won't do it as efficiently, though.
And is Trump gone by then? Because Trump seems to be the only one who likes tariffs. Like, even Republicans don't really like the tariffs, but they're just kind of like, well, he kind of got a big majority when he was elected.
We got to be careful because we're getting really into the politics here. But I think like, if you're coming back to the business sense of this, it's like, what do you do in tariffs your products cost too much in a certain market, you're no longer competitive, find new markets.
Yeah.
Or find ways to reduce costs drastically for your product, or find ways to carry or pass on those costs to the consumer. Those are your options.
Yeah.
If I'm in a software as a service space, it's probably not as big a deal.
Yeah.
You know, we even, for American SaaS companies to do business up here, we got rid of that proposed like internet tax basically for SaaS firms.
Yeah.
Carney got rid of that so we could continue the negotiations with the United States.
Right.
But it's like, so like there's really, that's easy. So if you're a SaaS company, you just kind of business as usual and make sure you don't get on the wrong side politically.
Yeah.
And if you're a goods product, you have to find alternative markets.
Yeah.
That's my hot take on that.
You know, we're investors in a small IoT company here in Canada. And when the tariff thing happened, the first response they had, because they're growing and they really don't want to kill momentum. They said to their customers, don't worry about tariffs. We'll look after it. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is what the US government wants. They want the foreign companies to eat the tariffs, right?
Yeah.
They don't want the importer or the client in the United States to have to pay the tariffs. Now that's a small startup.
Yeah.
That's a small startup that is desperate to get traction and hungry. Okay. Now, I think what happened was it ended up that under Kuzma, they could fill out some paperwork and they could do it that way.
Yep.
But
it's a North American made product.
So, but for most established firms, are they just saying, well, no, you're the importer. Your government wants these tariffs. You have to pay these tariffs. Like I know when I bring over something from overseas and I have to pay some sort of duty or tax or something like that, that's me paying that.
Yeah.
Right. The importer, I guess.
Yeah.
Right. So,
you're the importer of record.
So is it just the small, hungry startup that is desperate for traction that's going to eat the tariffs, whereas every other established company in the industry is going to sell it at normal price and expect the customer to pay the tariffs?
That's why everybody loses in tariffs. So like, again, small companies, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think there's any way around like just sort of tolerating that. For what it's worth too, they're in a pretty price competitive market, this company that we're invested in. But I do think broadly speaking, like, you don't really have many options.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? You can't, like, what do you do? Write a sternly worded letter to the U.S. government? You're kind of screwed. You just have to eat it, and it's just going to affect your margin. This is why when you build your business, and we talk about this a lot, we focus a lot on profitability. And the reason why you focus on profitability is if you have a good margin, it gives you a lot more play for when you have these rainy days.
Yeah.
Or when you have crappy situations that occur like this, you can eat it, and yeah, you might lose 10 points. But if your margin's 30%, okay, you can maybe make it work on 20% profit margin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this is what I obsess over. How can I keep margins as big as possible?
Yeah.
Because I need flexibility. And it also could be like, it doesn't have to be like these terrible situations. It could be like, I want to put more into marketing.
Right.
I'm going to take a 5% margin hit, take that 5%, invest it back into the company, into marketing efforts.
Yeah.
There you go. Right.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
So growth.
Yeah.
And this isn't rocket science, but it's just, I guess maybe this is the real point here is if you're a business with like thinner margins, these tariffs are a huge effing deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
They're scary. So with the Supreme Court ruling on the IEEPA tariffs, are we in a position now where, and
sounds like
there's apparently 15% tariffs on everything now globally. Okay. So like, is that like the worst that can happen at this point?
No.
Are we in a worst case scenario right now? Like, is there, I don't think like the US government can then all of a sudden go and say, hey, I'm going to put an extra 15% on whatever because the IEEPA thing has been thrown out, right?
Oh man, they've been pretty creative.
Yeah.
So I want to say yes, but I also want to say no. So
Yeah.
The answer is I don't know.
That's the key thing is that the uncertainty is just crushing everyone.
Yeah.
You have no idea what
Markets hate uncertainty, right?
Yeah.
And the only thing that I am certain of is that when the stock market goes down, Donald Trump gets worried. That I know.
Yeah.
And so like that I'm very well aware of. And so I feel like based on that, you can actually kind of track a little bit.
Boy, can you imagine if AI wasn't booming right now?
Oh man.
The stock market would be in the toilet.
Yeah.
There's so much of the stock market right now is buoyed by the AI bubble.
Oh no, it's insane.
Whatever.
It's insane.
If AI wasn't a thing right now, Trump would be in the toilet.
There's so many top signals that make me so freaked out.
Yeah.
Everybody's up.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
I was reading an article and they said, the minute that Anthropic and OpenAI and all these guys go public, then that's the time that the tech is leveling out and the VCs,
they're maxing value.
Initial investors are saying, we're getting out. We're going to IPO. We're getting our money out of this, and we're moving on to something else. That's the time when you got to be worried. When
they did a lot of, it's a lot of money. My newsletter, Day versus AI. My hot take last week was on how we're putting like effectively like $10 trillion into AI. If you do the math on this, between data center construction and the venture capital investment and all these other things, $10 fucking trillion. And so you're like, I really, really hope this isn't so we can have better social media ads. You know what I mean? I really, really hope that we're doing this to move humanity forward. Otherwise, what the hell is this? This is so much money to put into that.
Yeah.
You think something crazy happens with like quantum, and then all of a sudden, like these massive data centers that have been built are just like, rotting away.
Eventually,
with, like tumbleweeds blowing down the aisles of old servers that aren't doing
all of a sudden
anything.
they're all WeWorks.
All right, real quick, I just want to give some takeaways for our listeners today. So for consumers, just a couple of things. Be strategic about boycotts. If you're going to boycott, make it targeted. Specific companies, clear demands. You got to have a reason for doing it. For entrepreneurs, build anti-fragile businesses. So you want to diversify.
Durable? Like what's anti-fragile? Durable,
like,
resilient?
We were highly concentrated in public safety at universities. We had a little bit in healthcare, but like having that broad customer base in different markets gives you some resiliency. So there's kind of that, especially if you're a small
I think you can also have other forms of resiliency baked in. Like we had poison pills in our contract. We had other ways that we protected and insulated our business from short-term shock. So when COVID happened, we didn't lose all our customers, even though nobody could physically congregate. We had these contracts that kept people on the platform, even though it was kind of a total gong show in the macroeconomic environment.
Yeah. Then my last tip is stay focused on your mission. Stay focused on the customer. Try and avoid the political stuff. Political winds blow in all different directions. It's going to be hard to keep up with this stuff.
Yeah, that's
focus
fair.
on your customer, doing a really good job with your product and that sort of stuff. If you have to take a stand, make sure you've really considered it carefully, because it's just.
I have another good example for this. So like we worked in campus safety. We worked with a lot of red states, to be honest, like with a lot of customers in red states. And, there were some like violent events that would occur on campus. Like that's just the reality. We saw a lot of them. And my personal feeling was always that, well, you just need some form of gun control. Like there's too many weapons, right? But I never
said that.
I'm not gonna, like why?
Right.
What key benefit?
And we're foreigners.
Who benefits? We're Canadians.
We're not.
But
in their
but
country.
even so what? Even if I say that to a chief of police, and they might be like, yeah, bad guys probably shouldn't have guns, and we should have really big guns. And to be honest though, I see like I would talk to I remember talking to a chief of police, and he said, we need these like really big, powerful assault rifles because people down here can have assault rifles.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're right. You can't be outgunned. Yeah, I actually totally agree with this. Now, I don't think they should have a fucking tank, but I think that they should have at least the same level of weapon as the potential aggressor.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's fascinating how like it's easy from a distance to be like, this is what I think, and I'm so smart. But I think the reality is it's way more complex when you get into these issues, and it probably doesn't serve you as a business owner to lean in on this unless that is your mission. Unless your mission is to get rid of like some sort of gun amnesty destruction program, and like somehow you make money on that. Like, that's interesting, but I don't know. But you know what I mean? Like, unless it's like your thing, like
just focus on your product.
Just what do you do that adds value and help those people do that thing? And just focus on that.
Focus on your customer, focus on your product.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Cool.
We solved it.
What, politics? Be apolitical is almost what we're saying. But anyway, cool. All right, well, cool. See you next week, folks.
Start it up. Let's get it rolling. Big ideas, money folding. Hustle smart, dream so wild. Turn that grind into a joyride.